The following is a Simpronto media production.
Leaders, real life leaders.
Hey guys, this episode is from the Grow and Scale Now Summit, where top entrepreneurs and leaders are going to help you take your business to the next level. To get your free ticket, go to growandscalenow.com. Now to the episode.
Hey guys, welcome to today's episode. And today's title is How to Take Action and Work Quickly to Make Great Financial Decisions in Time of Crisis. And we couldn't be at any more critical time to hear this message. We have Corrina Steward of soulwealthcoach.com. So welcome, Corrina. Tell the listeners a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Chantel. Well, I'm really happy to be here, first of all. And I'm a soul wealth coach, and I am known for helping spiritually conscious entrepreneurs to scale their businesses, monetize what I call their spiritual empires. And, I have a unique point of view on money that I know we're going to talk about today. One of them is that money is love.
Awesome.
I'm excited to share this with your audience today.
Well, so, one of the things is that a lot of people are panicked right now, obviously, right? And so they're kind of like, okay, I'm stressed, everything's going on, oh my goodness, and freaking out. But one of the things that there's a lot of opportunity as well, right? And so tell listeners like some practical things they can do if they have a business that, okay, they need to act quickly. What are some of the things they need to do to kind of shift and adjust?
Yeah. Well, so first of all, I think you hit the nail on the head just to really make this point is right now is a time to actually be really urgent in your business. It is not a time to be kind of waiting it out and I want to see what's going to happen here. One of the amazing things about being an entrepreneur is you have all this freedom to create your own wealth, create your own money. So the number one thing you should be doing right now is paying attention to what are the new needs that you see out there. So for example, there's a lot of people right now who, need to quickly figure out how to create a virtual business. So if you're someone who's already been in a virtual business and you know how to make that transition because you've done it, that's one, niche we're seeing popping up really fast right now. Helping people to get online, helping people to monetize their businesses that previously were more of a physical face-to-face business, right? Obviously this has been a growing area of business for a long time, online businesses. But if you're in any way an entrepreneur that can service and support other business owners, maybe even if they have a brick and mortar business, and figuring out how to get creative and actually get their business to be online, getting it to be actually global in this time. We're going to see another wave of virtual and global businesses opening up where you can actually service people from everywhere around the world. So, that's a really easy no-brainer. The other thing is, everything is really about creativity now. It's back in 2007, when we had another economic downturn, that was when the real estate bubble crashed. And I've been sharing this with people, go back to 2007 and what the world was like then. And, what business looks like then. And between 2007 and 2009, we have had incredible growth industries. One of them being the coaching business, the whole transformational leadership business, artists, creatives have really begun to find a way to make money doing what they love, making a difference for people. So we're in another one of those moments now. So anything that responds from a creative standpoint, I've been seeing these amazing things like, art classes for children online, all sorts of homeschooling things that are popping up. Even being able to, when everything's back to normal, let's say, people are going to revisit things about their family life and education and say, you know what, I really appreciated that deep connection with my family. I really appreciated being able to even educate my kids. So I could see homeschooling really taking off in an even bigger way, a lot more of that intimate connection with families. So if you are, work with families or coaching in any way around that, really paying attention to where can you go to your next level in business. One of the things you don't want to do right now is be trying to just figure it out. I was speaking with some entrepreneurs yesterday who they were in their launches, I've got my launch from A to B. And I said, you know what? You've got to interrupt that right now. Like, it's not business as usual. It's not business as usual to just kind of continue with your campaigns and going the same way that you've been going. Like, pay attention to what people really need. Some things you can do is survey your clients, survey your customer base, and say, you know, what's coming up for you, or what would really help you right now? Find out what the needs are. Find out what they are, and then be willing to just jump at it quickly, you know, by putting a product together, a service together. Maybe it's a free offering at first, you know, being really willing to give right now in such a way that, you know, maybe you had a course that you did and you usually charged, you know, $1,000 for it. And now opening it for free to be giving, right? Because there's a need right now. And then taking a look at how can I service my clients, support them in a deeper way with a new offering, right? So it's really about being inventive, not being rigid right now, being willing to take like leaps of faith, I would say, and just say, go for it. Just go for it. You know, for example, you know, I'm someone who has, as a coach, a lot of high ticket programs. And while I'm not giving up on my high ticket programs, I'm also aware that in this economic crisis that we're having, a lot of people are losing their jobs. And a lot of people are looking for a job opportunity. Essentially, a lot of people are going to want to start businesses. So I am heeding that call, and I've started this like jumpstart, you know, scale your business, monetize your spiritual empire, a 90-day program for really low cost. Nothing I've ever done before. So those are the kind of pivots that you want to be looking for and taking action on. And, you know, there's just so many things that are going to pop up for people. But, you know, I say, number one, survey your clients and your customers and your community and find out, like, what are their pain points right now? And be willing, number two, to respond to them quickly and urgently. And don't get caught up in what was, you know, what was before and trying to act as if it's business as usual. Be willing to shift, be willing to pivot, do things that you've never done before, maybe even a lower price point than you've done before, and be willing to serve a lot more people, because there's going to be a lot of fallout from, you know, the economic casualties, let's say, of you know, what's been happening in the last couple months.
Yeah. And I love that you're saying, you know, we're not doing business as usual. We all need to kind of pivot, right? And go, okay, what are some changes we need to make? And what the exciting part is to start thinking about the opportunity to just reinvent and create new avenues of revenue, like the virtual ones, which can open up such a bigger audience for you.
Yep.
And it opens up a way of potentially reaching even more people than you've ever dreamed.
Exactly.
And so, you know, you need to, like, that's what brings hope, you know, that's what brings hope. And so one of my friends I just interviewed on here, and he was talking, his whole business is centered around events. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and for me, and this kind of everything that happened, and I was thinking to myself, oh my gosh, like, that is like, I would not want to be in a business, right?
Yeah, that's all event based.
A travel agency.
Yeah.
They got rid of they laid off 75% of their workforce, and they're planning on doing, you know, way more. But I would not want to be in the events business right now. I wouldn't want to be in the travel industry right now. But we have to be adaptable. We have to learn how to turn crisis into opportunity.
Crisis into opportunity. Yeah. I mean, there's colleagues of mine, and there's so many ways to do this. I mean, I canceled 2 masterminds, in-person masterminds. I live in Puerto Rico, and you know, it's one of the. I live in Puerto Rico. It's one of the amazing things about, you know, working with me is you often get to come to this beautiful island and, you know, have a great time and, you know, deep connection and all that here in this beautiful tropical paradise. We can't do that right now, right? But one of the pivots that you can do is hold virtual online masterminds. Like, you can do that and actually recreate experiences. Now, you get to get inventive about that. One of my colleagues, she just did this with one of her masterminds, and she said, you know, they did a happy hour together. They actually like did a little, like, at the end of the day, go get changed and put on, like, you know, your happy hour attire and let's have that together. You know, they did a working lunch together online. there's all sorts of ways that you can do things differently. Now, large events and things like that, yeah, like there's a pivot. In travel, there's a pivot. It may mean for you right now, you're going to totally transition the way that you make a living. And my point of view on this, I mean, I'm very spiritual in the work that I do. My point of view on this is that, well, there's a calling for you, right? Like a crisis always means that there's a calling. There's a new purpose. And if we choose to open our hearts to it, you will find the solution, right? You will find it because, first of all, I believe, as human beings, we're incredibly adaptable. We're incredibly creative. I mean, that's like who we are at our core. Mm-hmm. And we reinvent ourselves all the time. And what's amazing about, being in a crisis point, one of my mentors, Barbara Marx Hubbard, she founded this, the whole concept of conscious evolution, that actually when a species goes through crisis, right, there's this pressure, right? It's like, think about how diamonds are made, heat and pressure. And then when we're in a pressure cooker, it actually calls us forward to discover new capabilities and new wisdom within ourselves. And that's what I would call a calling, like you're being called. I know when I lost my job back in 2007, which launched my business, I was in that pressure cooker. I was on the unemployment checks, so I get it. Those of you who have quickly lost your job, weren't expecting it, it became the biggest blessing in my life because that's when I got to sit back for a moment and go, what's really the purpose of my life? What is this opportunity calling me into? And what that became ultimately was this coaching business that I have now. I became trained as a coach at that time, back when, people were saying, what is that? How are you going to make a living doing that? Very few coaches were out there. And, today I have a 7-figure business, a 7-figure coaching business because of that economic downturn, because of, getting laid off. And that's what can happen for you right now. If you actually see it and have that point of view that this is an opportunity.
Yes.
What am I being called to do?
Right. Well, some people are, struggling mentally. Others are struggling financially. Some of the businesses are shutting down. Like I said, laying off 75% or more of their workforce. Yeah. And a lot of companies have already lost millions of dollars. But one of my favorite quotes is, the problem is not the problem. The problem is how you think about the problem.
Absolutely.
And so I think it really is some different ways to think about this. And so just like you said, that this could turn out to be a blessing, right? Yeah. For me, I want you to think outside the box and help people kind of think about some ways that this could be a blessing. And I will tell you, for me, this is a big blessing to my business because 6 months ago, God said to me, I want you to take your entire business and I had 7 brick and mortar locations. And he said, do not build another brick and mortar location. No more. We're done with that. Wow. And so I was like, okay, we're not going to do that anymore. and so I've just been doing every system, every operation is now doing virtually. And so now I know that's how I'm going to be able to scale and grow because I don't, think about it. Every time I need to open up, a new location, I would hire a manager. I would sign a lease, do $100,000 in build out. We had 7 locations and just all the moving parts and this person's out. And it's just all this moving nonsense. And like my friend said, she's like, Chantel, you've just got too many moving parts. And I said, you know what? That's right. And this is allowing me to scale down so I don't have too many moving parts. Like I think a lot of businesses were running where they were just overstaffed. You know what I mean? Just completely overstaffed. They weren't making the kind of profit that they needed to make because they could have taken that profit, turned it around and given more. I mean, I just think, what are some other things you're seeing? So that's an example.
I relate to that. First of all, in my own business, we have really pared down now because the overhead definitely was getting too explosive. And I see this now as it's about like redirecting to give, redirecting that everything goes into service. Okay. Now, what I would say, we have people probably listening here that are at different moments. If you've been laid off, I would say it's a moment to go inside. It's just a moment to go inside and ask for direction. And if you're spiritual, that helps because you can really just set the intention. I mean, really something simple like what I did in the beginning in 2007 when I was laid off and trying to figure out like what was the purpose of all of this and what was I supposed to do? I mean, I would just write in my journal, like, what is my purpose? What is my calling? Like, show me how, show me the steps. And little by little, like the answers came, you know, like you, I got really clear guidance, like do this, do that. And a decade later, you know, I could see why I was guided in the ways I was. So if that's you and you've been laid off, I would say it's just simply an opportunity for reinvention and to go deep and reflect on what you really want. If you are an entrepreneur and you've already been in business, here's where I would go. Like first, I want to quickly lay out, because I think this will be helpful to people, Chantel, which is when I received in 2007, I received a prophecy. I received a prophecy about a economic reset that would come. And it was told to me as a financial soul reset. And I was shown this. I was shown exactly what we're going through right now. And so, first of all, no, I hope that gives some comfort. Like this was all in divine order. Second of all, what was shared with me was that in order to create wealth in what is now a new economic structure that is birthing right now, we absolutely must prescribe to 4 principles of wealth. And the first is that money is service. So it all starts with how can you be of service to others? And we are moving out of a paradigm of money where it was about serving, what we wanted, or serving our own bank account, our own possessions, our own houses, or all of that. You know, even if it looked like team. I know for me, it was like sometimes I felt like I was working to pay my team, which I love and adore them, but it wasn't 100% in service to the larger purpose. All right, so money as service is number 1. Number 2 is money is love. Money is love. It's actually an opportunity to really tap into your heart and when you ask, like from a heart space, like what do I genuinely want to do? Like if money wasn't even in the equation, right? Because we have all sorts of concepts about money. For a moment, if money wasn't even in the equation, what would you be doing? Because that's coming from a place of desire and what is known as heart's desire, right? And that's where you want to give. That's about being generous. Money will always find you and flow through you when you're coming from that heart space within you. And then the third principle of the new money economy is money is truth, which is to tap into what are you inherently good at? What is that wisdom that's always been with you since you were a child even? Because it's a natural born, inherent, what I would call soul wisdom. And now in this pressure cooker we're in, there's new wisdom that's coming out of you. And that is actually the basis of your wealth. It's the basis of money in your bank account. Okay, so an exercise people can do is even just sitting down and like writing out what are the things you've always known? What are some of the things that you secretly know that you don't tell other people? Or you just don't own that value, you don't own your worth around that. All right. And then the 4th principle of the new money economy is money is God. Now, this one is a little radical. I waited a long time before I started to talk about this because I knew people had different ideas of God, and sometimes God can be triggering. You can replace it if you want with higher power, source, creator, but the truth of that principle is money is God. Money is God is to know that actually you are here for a higher purpose and you are here to serve a much larger movement in the world. Okay, that your life really isn't your own. And that's just an illusion, that we believe that somehow we're separate from one another. And when you're willing to surrender, which right now there's such a great opportunity to surrender, right? Because things are just the rug is being pulled out from you. And when you align yourself with money as God, then, things start to happen in I was like really miraculous ways. What I recommend is you have what I call a money as God project in your life. The year that I chose that, I said, this year is going to be a money as God project. I said, I will give in the ways that God is leaning me towards and showing me where to go. Okay. And, it meant really building out my group coaching program. That's what it looked like at the time. that was the year that I crossed over 7 figures, because I wasn't focused on the money. I was focused on the giving, and I was focused on the serving, and just showing up as the coach I am and as the leader I am. When you give in that way, and when you show up as if, you know that expression, like dance as if no one's watching, it's like give as if no one is taking stock, and you're just giving from the heart, you're showing up. That is when innovation is born. That is when opportunity shows up for you. That is also how it works now. Those 4 principles are the consciousness, the underlying principles of the new economy that's birthing right now. And so if you want to make money now, to scale and grow your business, you absolutely must align yourself with those principles.
Yeah, and I think that right now adaptability, is key. And you have to figure out, okay, how does one adapt to the current climate? And so, figuring out, okay, what's the best way to service all of our customers? What's the best way for us to lead in time of crisis? And it really starts with what's fake news, what's real, and kind of attempting to discern through the noise. So one of the questions that, people have been saying is like, how do I know how to be wise, right? I don't want to downsize too much because I don't want to lay off all these people and start completely over.
Yeah, I hear that.
I also want to make sure that, I'm not depleting all my cash flow either.
Yeah.
What kind of advice would you give to someone who says that?
Yeah. So, here's my advice. First of all, you've got to look at what is the core team that is essential. And I don't mean from a survival limitation perspective. When I say essential, I mean that creates a core foundation in your company, a core foundation in what you stand for, right? Because you want to be in integrity with your clients and your customers and, the service that you put into the world. So really right now is a time to be asking yourself, what is core? What is core? So the core vision that you hold, and what is the team that is essential to holding that? And I think right now is a time to ensure also really, like, I would call it like a strong unification of that core team. In my own company, I'm making sure that those that are on my core team understand that they are, and that I've got their back, and that we're essentially in this together to make the company work in this time. And so really good communication with your core team right now, once you know who that is key, so that as a team, you're working together. One of the things I always talk about is you don't want to be a solopreneur. You can actually have team and all sorts of, staff and everything, and still act as a lone wolf, right? Versus really being the CEO of your business and, like working from team. Okay, so that's key. I also think right now you get to be creative about how you get things done. There may be ways in which, I have a team member who, she wasn't full time. And so now we're essentially giving her, because she's available to do this, more responsibility. And we did let one person go, but we're integrating this one core team member. So now she's full time with, more responsibility. And so there's a bit more, you could call that a downsizing, and yet it was just doing it more efficiently and smarter, and making it so that one person has full-time employment now, rather than 5 people, for example, having part-time employment. So my recommendation is like, figure out who that core team is, build them up, empower them, give them, the full-time work and the incentives and all of that, and let those that maybe weren't fully invested or, were part-time, release those people, and, they're going to be fine. I believe that everyone actually finds their place, especially if you're spiritually conscious and have that relationship with God. It's like people will find their way. Like everyone has that divine path that they get to follow. So, those are some thoughts. I mean, absolutely, I do think you need to really take a look at your team and make sure right now that it's operating from its strongest capability. It's not a time to be wasteful. It's a time to look at ways to be more efficient so that there's more money to actually go into serving. And I also think it's very wise right now to make sure you have an overflow account, in your own, for yourself. That's just wise, paying yourself first, having an overflow account, and making sure that, you aren't needing to worry, because one of the last things as a business owner that you want to be doing is waking up in the middle of the night worried about your own financial, security right now.
Yeah, I love that. And for us, just to share what we did, our business hasn't been affected much. We actually, because we are in real estate, we're considered an essential business. So we're able to still go in. People are still buying and selling houses like crazy. So business is still doing well for us. So, but we felt like we already knew we were moving to this virtual model 6 months ago. God said to me, we're doing a virtual model, more brick and mortar. And so we'd already started. So a couple weeks ago, we had let go of an in-person trainer that, because we were moving all of our training to virtual. And we then during this, right after this whole breakup, the coronavirus, we had a girl who had a bad attitude, and we found out she was doing schoolwork on clock hours. And we'd already written her up twice before for having a bad attitude. And we were like, okay, no, right now we need positive people on board. We are not putting up with a bad attitude. And then it was the craziest thing this past Friday. I will never forget it. Friday morning, I prayed and I said, God, I don't want to let go of anyone right now. I'm kind of mama bear, and I really don't I didn't mind getting rid of the bad attitude girl. Right. But from then on, I was like, I just don't want to get rid of anyone. And so I prayed, I said, if there's anyone who's not the right fit, I know it's probably impossible. No one's going to get another job, but if for whatever reason, have them give their notice.
Yes.
And you wouldn't believe that afternoon, no prompting from us, didn't say a word. That afternoon, one girl said, I got another job at a title company that's making more money and closer to my house, or whatever it was, And so she's giving her 2 weeks notice. And then one girl we had decided to go part-time. And we were like, oh my goodness. You know what I'm saying? So I think praying that is a really great prayer.
So good.
To kind of just say, God, if there's not someone who isn't the right fit, then, help them to, for whatever reason, even though they don't understand, they might get a better job offer or something. So that was kind of
interesting, Chantel. The same thing happened for me. That is so bizarre. It was actually someone we were going to be letting go of. And she gave us her notice before we even had that conversation. And it was like, boop, it just, the rearrangement happened so naturally. And I love what you're saying. It's like, I do this even with clients. Like I'll say, I have an ongoing prayer around ensuring that we have the right clients. And if it's in the highest good for the client and for us, and we're a match, that, it'll all line up. But if, basically, God protect me from any clients that are going to be not a good fit. Right. And I have seen, clients come closer because of it. And I've also seen things not line up for someone to come through or sign their contract or whatever to work with us. And I always see that as a saving grace, and so that's awesome. I mean, right now is really a moment for a lot of deep prayer, because we are moving into territory that is unknown and uncertain. And that's a moment of faith, right? It's a moment of faith. I love how you shared, because it was like, you didn't want to be the one to figure it out. And so you gave it to God. And that's a really, really amazing place to be. And I would say I did a show once on this, on my podcast about what I think is the most powerful tool for entrepreneurs is prayer, and we don't think about that. We think about, our masterminds or getting a coach or whatever, all these other things that are executive leadership and all that. And to me, our most powerful tool as leaders is prayer, because that is actually going to show you the way. And also lighten things up and make them so much easier than perhaps we would have made them to be, with the heaviness that sometimes being a CEO can be.
Yeah, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things they say is that entrepreneurs and leaders, like the ability you have to solve problems,
Yeah.
your way to kind of move up the chain, right?
Yeah.
So it's like if you can solve problems, right? Those are the people that move up to management, then leadership, then because they can look at a problem and go, okay,
Yeah.
how do we fix this? So
Yeah.
any tips on how to be able to be a better problem solver, or anything that you can do to help people to be more decisive? Because I think being decisive right now is a really big thing. You cannot be in a waffling position. We had this guy that was with us a couple of years ago, and he literally was like, I want to do this job. And then another job opened up. He's like, I want to do that. I want to do that. And he would just, we bought him a waffle maker because we were like, you are a waffler. You can't be a leader if you are constantly in here and waffle and waffle and waffle and, back and forth. So any tips on kind of being decisive or great decision making?
Yeah. So I have 3 C's that I teach that could be really helpful. First of all, it's confidence, commitment, and consistency. All right. All this leads to urgent decision making. So having confidence in your ideas is really essential. All right. So right now, I know for myself, like I'm executing on things that I have thought were good ideas for a long time, but I just sat on them and didn't do anything about it. So having confidence in yourself and in your ideas, right? When you get an inspiration or you look at a problem and you say, well, it seems to me this is the solution, right? Having the confidence to, be vocal about that, to, believe in your ideas is number one. Because a lot of times, I'll experience, in my community, with spiritually conscious entrepreneurs, they can doubt like the ideas they get. So, confidence is number one. Now, commitment is what your waffler didn't have, which is sticking with it, right? So it's one thing to have brilliant ideas and be, an idea maker, right? When you look at problems and come up with solutions. But then you've got to be willing to be committed to it all the way through. Now, every idea you execute on is not going to work. That's okay. But to see it through, to stay committed. What scales and monetizes businesses is commitment. Actually through some really tough challenges, even when sometimes it looks like it's not going to work out, but being, someone who actually stays committed. I had these teachings that I got in 2007, it's, 2020 now. And, I've stayed committed to that, right? So I've stayed committed to what I saw as the potential in my business, where a lot of other people give up and stop, right? But commitment is key. Then finally, consistency. Consistency is more in the details. It's like, how do you show up every day, right? How do you show up every day? If you work from home and you have a virtual business, it's still really important to be consistent. I get up every day, I get dressed, I do my hair, I do my makeup, I show up as if I was going to an office. I have a consistent schedule, I have a consistent workout routine. All of that will actually make it that when you are being a leader, being a problem solver, that solutions stick. They stick. When you operate from these three levels of leadership where you are confident, consistent, and committed, you actually begin to have more and more wealth flow. That's where sustained cash happens. If you interrupt yourself in any one of those 3 areas, then you actually interrupt the flow of business and you interrupt the flow of those ideas, and you never get to see what would have happened if you stuck with it and you stayed committed and you were consistent.
Yeah, that's great. So let's talk about saving money for just a second. And I know for me personally, I used to have about 6 to 8 months worth of full savings, meaning like if we didn't bring in $1, we could still run for 6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
And we just had massive, massive amounts of cash in the bank. And I think we just started again, like we started hiring too many employees, and we just were like, yeah, we need a director of this and we need a director of that. And, here we go, hiring more and more and more employees.
Yeah.
And then, now we're in about a 3 to 4 months of savings that we have. And I think 6 months is really what they say is where you should be able to save that much money so that you can, keep your employees and do what you need to. But I know that there's a lot of companies that are literally operating paycheck to paycheck, and they don't want to let go of their employees. But what choice do they have if the money stops? Yeah. So what is some advice for someone? Let's talk about people who, maybe have some money saved, but not quite enough. What are some tips to kind of save that money? And what would you say to some of those other companies that are literally operating paycheck to paycheck?
Paycheck to paycheck. All right. Well, first of all, I'm not perfect in this area because I can really relate. There was a time I had, $150,000 in the bank in my overflow account, and it was like the same as you, like, the cash was abundant. And then what I would say is, we got in the company like a little like it's just going to keep coming and there's not going to be any issues. And so we were hiring and we were doing extra things and we were just throwing the money, and before I knew it, that was whittling down. And so I really relate. And I think this is a really common thing with entrepreneurs, to live in this kind of boom and bust type of mentality. Now, I'm back on my game. And here's what I want to share with you guys is, first of all, it's just essential to pay yourself first. If you're I know a lot of entrepreneurs that don't even, like CEOs of companies, they don't even pay themselves a salary. Like, you've got to make sure that you're an employee in your company, you're paying yourself a salary. All right. So that's number one, pay yourself first. What I've seen happen when I do that, it's amazing. Like, first of all, money just has this intelligence. Like, when you do that, then it's like money is like, oh, that's where you want me to go, right? You become a guide and you direct where you want your money to go. Okay. So when I pay myself first and then also put in a weekly amount, so there's a weekly amount that I'm committed to putting also into an overflow account. All right. And whenever I do that, not only is the money there, okay, the money is there, which is like amazing, because before, when I was just not doing that consistently, somehow the money wasn't there, so, your intention is really powerful here. So paying yourself a salary, make sure you do that. Make sure that you're paying then into an overflow account so that you are, I know that financial advisors will say, like 6 to 8 months or what have you. I'm not a financial advisor in that way. I just think you want to, whatever the amount is for you, that gives you enough of a security that you can wake up in the morning and take the risks in your business, and feel joyful and not wake up feeling scared. Like, whatever that number is for you, that's your number, is the way I would look at it, that gives you that sense of security so that nothing is holding you back in your leadership as a CEO. And I would just say, you just got to do it, because when you start paying weekly amounts, and that's what I recommend you do it every week. And then it's like, you actually do that before you pay invoices, before you pay team, and at first that might seem a little hard, but it's like, if you don't do that, then you're jeopardizing the business overall. You're jeopardizing the future employment. So you want to think in that way. I've been there where it's like not knowing if you can pay your whole team. And it's a really uncomfortable place to be. And, never having paid team, but that hustle gets old, that hustle gets old. And so, do yourself a favor and just know that money will shift its behavior in your life and in your company when you actually pay yourself first and make it a number one priority, that you have money in the bank, whatever amount makes sense to you that gives you a comfort level.
Hey guys, I want to take a minute real quick to tell you about this retreat that I'm putting together. It's going to be just 10 lucky people that I'm going to select, and we are going to stay in a 5-star resort in Miami, and it's going to be pamper time. But the most important thing, I'm going to open up my books. I'm going to show you everything. You're going to leave there with my Word docs. You're going to leave with a USB drive with all the information that I've possibly done, every system in place. A lot of times you go to these conferences, you get all jazzed up, but you don't walk away with anything. You're going to walk away with this retreat with tons of systems. Go to chantelray.com/retreat to learn more. Yeah. And I think that, one of the things that you have to do is kind of right now act quickly to pivot in a new way. And so I'll give you a couple of examples, and then I'd like for you to give me some.
Okay.
So there's an owner of a Hooters here that I know. He owns a Hooters restaurant. And so he said, I said, okay, well, what are you doing, to kind of just here. And what he did was he had people come in because he could have 10 guests in the restaurant at the time. Now they've just changed it. And now you can't have anyone in the dining room at all. But at the time it was 10 guests. He said, what I did is I put a timer in front of each person. They had 45 minutes. They had to come in and they had to come out. He's like, people were coming in. We had kitchen timers in front of everyone, 45 minutes. They would drink and eat. We'd have food prepared. Here you go, in and out. And they were pushing them in. And then they would go for 45 minutes. And then they would get back in line and come right back in. And people were having fun. And he's like, we were doing great. We were killing it.
Yeah, that's cool.
And, I know some people who have events that are, creating a virtual experience, right?
Yeah.
Like they're doing Zoom technology, they're doing a virtual presence. They are creating that live event, but the live event is now in a virtual modem so that they can still sell that course, everything they're doing. Can you think of any ways that people have really pivoted quickly and they've been able to, still kind of make lemonade out of lemons?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think in the restaurant business, you're seeing it around like the catering and the food delivery service where, there's that opportunity now. I mean, here in Puerto Rico, all the restaurants are shut down in this time. And I don't know by the time this airs if that'll still be the case, but, but there's a restaurant in our neighborhood where, like he's just got his big sign out and he's like, delivery. And none of his staff is there. It's just him. He's, it's a really popular restaurant here, and they live in our development, and the family does, him and his family. And, so first of all, like right now you can have a booming delivery service, whereas before maybe that wasn't even part of your restaurant business. I mean, I've seen that. That's like a no-brainer. Any sort of delivery, honestly, even delivery from like the stores and all of that. Now, in the virtual, I would say in the coaching world, the innovations I'm seeing are 100% about just the virtual classes and the virtual masterminds and virtual events. And, what I'm doing, for example, right now in my own business, like I'm doing a 1-day full intensive where I'm going to do, where normally I would have done, so I do 2-day live events. I do 2-day live events all over the country. And, instead, I'm going to take what I do in a virtual event and in a physical event and do the same content and do it on Zoom in the virtual with 3 sessions where, we're going to meet during those sessions that are like 2 hours long and then have an hour break and we come back. I mean, there's actually nothing you can't do in a way to transform a physical event into a virtual event. Part of the trick of that, I would say, is really in creating the experience. You really want to create an experience for people because, paying attention on a virtual is a little different than being physically together. So I think you need to get creative about like the experience of it, adding things like maybe a yoga class, in the middle of it. So everyone's doing yoga together online. So they're getting their energy up, a meditation, things like that. That create a virtual joint experience. So it actually feels like you're moving through an experience together rather than just sitting at your desk and listening to someone talk, but actually something really interactive.
Well, there's this guy who he owns a place called Waterman's here locally.
Uh-huh.
And talk about pivoting. What he did was, because they do like really great crab legs and fish and everything. So turned his restaurant into like a marketplace. So it's now like a supermarket.
That makes sense.
So
Yeah.
they can come in, they can grab fresh crab legs, they can grab fish, they can grab everything. And I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, like this
That's so
is what
smart.
I'm talking about. A guy that's not like, okay, well, I'm just going to sit
My
at home.
restaurant's
Well,
closed.
what
Yeah,
can I
that's
do
it.
to make this work? And that's why his business is so amazing. Like, I think that if you ever come to Virginia Beach, it's called Waterman's, and they have the best orange crushes. That there's a drink here called Orange Crush, and they do a phenomenal job. But I'm just thinking, wow, here's a guy who's not just kind of taking it.
That's
He's
right.
like, I'm going to move forward.
That's right.
So, one of the things that, obviously if you are in the toilet paper business right now, these guys are rolling in it. And, it's funny because I have given this analogy over the years is that I've always said, I always talk about supply and demand, right? Because in my real estate business, everything is supply and demand. And if you have supply and demand on your side, you don't even need to be a great marketer, right? So like right now, let's pretend like you had like some janky toilet paper, like you weren't Charmin, but you were like toilet paper.
Everyone would want it. It wouldn't matter what the quality was.
Yeah, like whatever, like what you could do is like literally out of your house, put the toilet paper there. All you would need to do is say, I have toilet paper, put it in the front yard, put it in your garage and say $50 per roll. Yeah. And you're going to literally kind of go, boom,
Boom. It's a scarce resource. Yeah.
Well, and what's funny is I had asked somebody, I was thinking to myself, why is everyone going so crazy about toilet paper? Because the coronavirus, it's not like it gives you diarrhea, right? And so I'm like,
true.
Why are you?
We don't have a shortage here in Puerto Rico, so I was trying to figure it out too. We can still get plenty of toilet paper here.
Oh, you can? That's
I'm like, we live on an island, and like we're getting plenty of toilet paper shipped to us. I don't know why.
Yeah, but it's because, it's not like this is the diarrhea virus. But what they said is that China makes so much of our toilet paper. And because China was the first one to get it, that's why everyone was like, oh, China makes our toilet paper. We might not get it. That's what I heard. I don't know if that's true or not. But.
I mean, my mom was saying people were buying it up because they were afraid of like how long this was going to last and they didn't want to run out. So it was kind of like people hoarding, like one person going in and buying like, full shopping cart worth of toilet paper, and then there was none left for everybody else.
Right. But here's the thing. Like when I heard about that with the toilet paper, I did take decisive action very quickly. As soon as I heard it, I had my assistant go and buy toilet paper. And then I stopped at the store and bought some, and then had my husband buy some. And I have some friends right now. I actually was able to give them toilet paper because they didn't have it. Yeah. And so, it doesn't matter because what we think is not what the market might think, right?
Yeah.
And so, what the data is telling us is that there's a lot of people are panicking right now. And so whether it's real news or fake news, decisive action needs to be taken.
100%.
I think needs to.
Let me share something with you. Yes. So, I lived through Hurricane Maria here in Puerto Rico, which was a devastating hurricane. It, demolished the infrastructure here. The entire electrical grid gone. Like, just imagine, like, if you're in the whole state of Virginia, it was just gone, right? So we had no internet, we had no power, we had no cell phone service, and there was no gas, and there was no money. It was talk about crisis, okay? So I learned through that experience to follow instinct. And we have, as human beings, a natural born instinct in us to survive. And I also believe we have a God instinct in us. And that God instinct actually will point you to where you need to go urgently. And it was by following that God instinct in me from the day after Hurricane Maria, when I woke up and I was like, holy shit, this is not going to be fixed soon. This could be a year like this. And I run a virtual business. It is how we make our money. And I'm like, we have to get off this island. Not to mention, I was scared. I'm a mom of 2, and I was just scared, like a little mama bear. I was like, gotta pick up the family and we gotta go. And the instincts that I had and I followed with urgency. I was like, we're going to the airport now. Like, we got up, I got the whole family in the car, where everyone else was like, you can't even get to the airport. San Juan's about an hour from us. But we got there, like, all the wires down on the highway and big highway signs, and it was crazy. We actually got there before they even controlled it, because later they were stopping traffic and all of that. But because of my instinct, I was like, we're going now. So I avoided before, like, FEMA came in and we're trying to, like, control the population, basically. And so I was able to get Wi-Fi at the airport, which was crazy how I got Wi-Fi. And I was able to get a hold of an airline and get us tickets. And it was 8 days later, and it's a longer story that I won't go into now, but my point is, we did get out. We were able to fly out first class off this island when so many other people could not even get out, could not get tickets, couldn't figure it out. And I know that was because I followed, like you're saying, this urgency that was in me, and I didn't hesitate. And it meant, that I was able to keep operating my business. I actually had some of the most abundant months after the hurricane. We lived out in Sedona, Arizona for a couple months. And, again, it was opportunity. Like, rented a house out there. Always wanted to check out Sedona. It was beautiful. I ran a retreat out there. I made more money those months following than the months before Maria. And so I always go back to that story, because when you follow those instincts and take urgent action, it's leading you to the opportunity. It's leading you to, getting out of the crisis and really leading you to your abundance. So, don't hesitate. Definitely now is not a moment to be hesitating.
So let's talk with practical ways that people can reduce their expenses right now. So I'll give you an example. Coming up, taxes are coming up. And so to me, if you are in a position that you can make the payment, then great. I pay my taxes all the time, and I don't think you should never not pay your taxes. Yeah. But I think that you might want to think about that right now. The good news is they've extended it for your taxes. But if you might want to go to your landlord, negotiate a rent reduction, ask for them to, kind of waive 1 month. I don't know if they will, but, maybe talk about having your taxes, not deferring them and getting an extension on those. Going through, we go through once a quarter and look at all of our monthly software and subscriptions.
Totally.
Right now we're going through all those.
I just did
and
that.
slashing them. So what are some more tips? Give people some practical tips to make reductions right now.
Yeah. Well, so there's a lot of things. I mean, first of all, if you had, airlines and Airbnb and hotels are being incredibly, generous right now and flexible. So if you've had, let's just say right now you had tickets or reservations for places that you're not so sure right now, you can very likely just get full refunds. I just did that on a mastermind that I was going to be doing here. And rather than, have the hotel keep the money for a later date and a later mastermind, I just asked for the refund, because right now people are just doing refunds, no questions asked, when it comes to the travel part of it, and that was $5,900. So it's like, boom, like I'd rather have that $5,900 in my bank right now rather than have them keep it for a possible mastermind in October that I might do. I don't know. So that's just, if you do events and things like that, like right now you can probably get your money back. Airbnb, same thing. They have a policy right now where you can get all your money back on reservations and things like that. So take advantage of that. Other things, there's a lot of government supports and things like that are happening and coming out. So make sure you understand all of those.
And make sure you take speedy, decisive action on that, because again, they're going to have a certain amount of money on those grants and those relief loans. And if you're not taking action on those, then you don't get them. Trouble.
I'm not super aware of this, but I know I did read about like the Small Business Administration for small business loans now from the government. If your state is has called, like, it's a certain level of emergency. Small business owners are actually going to get access to small business loans at really reduced rates. So, check out the SBA. That's another place to get cash. But in terms of like the really practical stuff, again, I mean, you mentioned some really great ones. Like, can you drop some of your tech stuff? Your your cable bill or some of all those extras.
Oh, well, let me now that you mentioned cable bill, let me tell you what one of my very good friends told me. She said she called Cox and said, "Hey, I'm canceling my Cox cable right now." And they said to her, "Okay, well, we don't want to let you go as a customer, so we're going to give you 2 months of free cable." So it's not like deferred, not like whatever.
Yeah.
You're getting 2 months free. I think her Cox bill was like $260 a month. But she just saved $500 just by making like a 5-minute phone call.
Exactly. So make those phone calls. I mean, you can make those phone calls and just say like, "Hey, I'm looking to reduce costs. What's possible?" You don't know until you ask. I used to do stuff like this all the time when money was really tight for us, but before I had my business and things were just really tight, I would always call, the internet, the cable companies, credit card companies, and just they're generally willing to work with you. They're generally willing to work with you and help you figure out, ways to cut costs. We have a full-time nanny, but with the situation going on and seeing my kids are normally at school for half the day and then the nanny would come. And so, we're stepping it up. Like my husband's spending half the day with the kids. We're lowering costs there and our childcare costs. Now might just be a time to be more looking at well, what's really essential and what am I willing to do? What am I willing to do to save those costs? And what I would say is so that you can get the money in your bank, that you're actually taking those savings and putting it into your bank account. So you're getting that overflow account running, that safety net for you. So you feel safe, that will actually allow you to innovate, and to grow your business, that safety. So there's all sorts of things you can do, cooking at home more. My husband's a great chef, so he's been cooking everything from scratch, I do think we should support our restaurants and local businesses, and that's also another way to cut costs, like doing more home cooking, not taking, buying food out so much, things like that really will cut your budget down every month.
So let's talk about even personal things. So we've really been talking about business. What are some personal things we can save on? I was thinking my friend was like, well, I asked her, I said, "Is there anything you're doing?" And she said 2 things that I thought were cute. She said that she is using half the amount of toothpaste she was using. She said she used to really kind of cake on the toothpaste. She's like, "I'm being conscious to use half." And then she said that she's kind of putting on her makeup. She used to kind of touch up her makeup all day long. Yeah. And she was like, "Well, I'm really not seeing anyone. So I'm putting on my makeup in the morning and then that's it. At the end of the day, I'm not touching it up." So what are some personal things?
Conservative.
That you could do?
Yeah. Personal things, here's the thing. First of all, I'll just position this I would say, your life doesn't in any way need to be, to take a hit on the quality of life you're living, but what I would say is this, what are the things that you can do that are just, that's my dog barking, that are just free, I'm blessed that I live in this beautiful island where we can go to the beach, we can go for a hike in the rainforest, we take the kids to the park. There's all sorts of things to do that are just free and super amazing and don't cost a lot of money, maybe nothing at all, right? Just spending time with your friends and your loved ones and, going, you don't have to spend money to do that, so creating things like that. I don't know that I'm doing anything like toothpaste or with my makeup. I do reuse my eyelashes. I've always done that though. So, I would say those are maybe some conservative things, but, look, I'm not in my wardrobe and things like that, I'm pulling out things and seeing the abundance of clothes I have, and I'm not shopping right now for new things and just using what I have, and I'm sure most of us really have enough is the thing. And the more we kind of step away from being like needing a lot and being in that consumer kind of mentality, we actually grow the quality of our lives. And we grow the depth of our relationships, and I think that's one of the opportunities that's here right now for us in our personal lives.
All right. Well, last thing, I know that I have been wanting to accomplish to just make sure my thing that I want to do right now, I want to encourage, I want to direct, I want to lead my team to stay calm and carry on. And I've been very strong. I've had such an amazing attitude. I'm so proud of myself because I have just been like when they come to me, I'm like, stay calm. Let's carry on. We are moving forward. Everything we're doing, it's like we are figuring this out and we are going to move forward. And one of the things that I've done is I've kept every one of my daily routines and everything that I normally do. I'm continuing to do, including even though the gyms are closed. I have a private guy that I can go to, and he has a gym or creating a gym in your house, and he comes, he'll come to me or I'll go to him. But what are some routines that you say, like, these are crucial right now? Like they were crucial before, but now they
really are. Working out. Like, I'll echo that, same thing. I mean, I'm still getting up. I do my runs. We're not, again, this might be no longer the case by the time this airs, but at the moment we're actually in full lockdown here in Puerto Rico. We're not supposed to, I can't go run down to the beach right now, which I used to do, but I can run in my development. So I run circles around the blocks here. And, and I'm doing that with my kids every morning. They do this Cosmic Kids yoga. They put that on and they're doing yoga every morning. They get outside and getting outside, working out. I still think you should get dressed and act as if, if you're running your virtual business, get dressed like you would any normal day, look good, eat your regular meals. I honestly, nothing, to be honest, has changed in my life. My routine is the same because I work from home, but keeping that consistency is really key right now. I think rest is important. I think rest right now is important. I've
actually been sleeping about an hour and a half later. So my routine is staying the same, but I used to get up around 4:30 or 5 a.m. in the morning to start my routine. I think that's a good point that you said. I now am moving my routine to 7 a.m., 6 or 7 a.m. to kind of push things to get extra sleep. I think that's wise.
It's good because if the nervous system is being taxed in some way, you need to recharge and heal. And that's what sleep does. I'm doing a lot of naps. So that's what I do is I've been working a lot more now, actually, with all this, because there's high demand and I'm out there for the demand right now to serve people. So I've been working longer days than I normally would, but then I'm taking naps. I take an hour and a half nap in the middle of the day to recharge, and then I'm good to go again. So it's, I think that's it's key. Meditation, prayer, going inside, connecting with people, connect with colleagues, connect with friends, get on the phone with a good friend. If you need to have a good cry because there's something, you're afraid of or nervous about, clear that with someone that you trust. And then, like you said, carry on, keep calm and carry on. So, taking care of your emotional health is important too.
Yeah, it's funny. So our inside sales department, it's funny that we have a couple people and they are still crushing it. They're still setting appointments, and you can see some of the other people, their numbers are really dropping. And it's not because the business isn't there. It's because they're mentally not in the place that they need to. And it's if you look at it where you say, look, we don't want to get to a place where we are not taking action, because then we can become fearful and reactive. We're going to waste time. We're going to waste energy. And when we're stressed, it leads to sickness and utter chaos.
You got it.
We need to take action. The pep talk we gave our people was as long as you guys are still performing, because as long as the leads are coming in, which they are, and as long as you're still performing, the great news is you still have a job, but you can't lose focus. We need to dig deep, bigger than we've ever dig. We need to really kind of get to a place where we go, all hands on deck. We're working harder
Exactly.
than we've ever worked, and we're going to really push through this for the benefit of everyone on the whole
You
country.
got it. You got it. That's it. I mean, I led, just a week ago, I led a global meditation and, put the call out to my community and we had a lot of people show up. That it was a, really big showing, and everyone said, what peace it gave them. And that was what I wanted to give, was like, look, guys, like, we get to come together as a community right now and get really centered. Get really centered right now, because when you're centered, you have clarity. And when you have clarity, you can take action. And, so taking care of that internal piece and, meditation, yoga, prayer, exercise, getting good sleep, all of that is essential right now.
Yeah. And then the last thing we'll end on is just giving. It's funny because one of the things that I said to my husband, because I was starting to give a bunch of stuff, and I was like making dinner for this one, and I was giving, and he was like, Chantel, we need groceries for ourselves too. And I said, let me say this. I'm going to be extraordinarily stingy with myself right now, but I'm going to be extraordinarily giving with other people, meaning
Beautiful.
I'm not buying myself clothes. I'm not buying myself anything. Myself, I'm going to be as stingy as can be, but with others, I'm going to be arms wide open and give as much as I possibly can right now. So what are some thoughts on that?
Yeah. I think that's really key. Hold on one second. My husband vacuuming now. Boy, he's such a giver. Talk about a giver. Okay. So, I mean, here's what I've been noticing, Chantel, is that it's like we woke up overnight in a world of givers. Like, I think it's amazing. So many people giving right now. I mean, there are charities you can be giving to that are, helping, kids that aren't getting, their lunches and their breakfasts at school anymore, who are low income kids and need that. There are, opportunities to be, I have a friend who, she's in Arizona, and, she's going into shelters and helping feed the homeless right now. And, there's all sorts of ways you can be giving, right? I think one of the biggest things to be doing is like, look around right now and just in your local community and in your community of, within your business community, like who and what's in need right now, and just show up for that. Just show up for that, because, when you have the heart of a giver, first of all, like, you're just like being a good person, and that's like actually who I believe we are. But it's how we rise together. It's how we rise together and how we turn a crisis into something that is actually quite beautiful, really, because then we see our true human spirit. When like there's so many ways to give. Like our school, my kids' school, we're connected on an app. And so all of us are sharing what we're doing with our kids right now at home. Like lessons that they're doing, and we're taking pictures, and, we did this activity. Like, even that is just giving, right? It's like sharing with people. I've been putting that up on my Facebook too. Like, here's what we're doing at home, our homeschool schedule. But anyway, like, just looking up and looking out and seeing where the needs are and being helpful, being helpful however you're being called to, because there's probably someone right in front of you that is in need right now, and you get to be, generous to and towards. Maybe you have an abundance of food right now, and you can cook a meal and bring it over to someone. Like you had extra, toilet paper, and you're giving it to your friends. I mean, it sounds simple, and yet this is actually what creates a sense of community and unity. And I believe that the real story, of the coronavirus and this economic downturn is that we got closer as a human family, and more unified and more loving and more giving and more generous. And that's going to be the story, of this time.
Yeah, absolutely. And we all need to be praying for people with addictions, because it's funny, because the governor of Virginia just said this whole thing. He was like, basically talking about how drinking will increase. People are going to be watching more porn and online gambling. And because when humans are stressed, they're in pain. And an addiction is a form of self-soothing. And so it creates negative consequences. And so,
that's a really good point.
I used to struggle with overeating. Like when I was stressed, I would overeat. Yeah. And so, I have something called, I lost over 30 pounds and have been able to keep it off because of learning how to not run to food. When I'm stressed. And that's at chantelrayway.com. But that's another way to save money right now, because one of the things that really helped me was intermittent fasting. And so because I'm only eating, 1 or 2 meals a day, that's a good thing to kind of look into right now if you thought about that.
But I'm with you on that. Stress and overwhelm really triggers those addictions. And I'll come back to, again, like consistency in a schedule right now can really help with that. Like, eating well, getting your sleep and exercising, meditating, praying, being connected to other people right now, all those things, and taking care of your mental and emotional health are going to be important.
Yes. Awesome. Well, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for being with us today. Tell listeners where they can find you and where they can follow you.
Okay. Yeah. So, one of the best places to find me is on Facebook, and you would want to look up my Facebook page, my business page, which is Soul Wealth Coach. So you just have to search for that, Soul Wealth Coach, and you're going to find me there. And also you mentioned my website, soulwealthcoach.com. And I have a podcast called Activate Your Wealth, which is on all the podcast channels. So all you need to do is search Activate Your Wealth, and you will find it.
Yeah. And I will end with this, my husband says this all the time. It's like his favorite quote. And every time he would say it, I would literally look at him like it just didn't resonate with me. And Mike Tyson said, everyone has a plan, until they're punched in the face,
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Everybody has a plan until they're punched in the face. And it's true, right? And right now we're all kind of getting punched in the face, right?
Yeah.
And so no one had a plan for this, right? No one was like, okay, I know where the coronavirus is coming,
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, it's okay to say, okay, you know what? We're punched in the face right now, and that's okay. But that we are going to push past the fear.
Yeah.
And we are going to remain calm. We're going to remain intentional, and we are going to all get through this together.
Yeah. Yeah. Amen to that.
All right. Well, thanks so much for being with us. And you guys stay tuned, because we have another episode coming up in just a bit. Bye-bye for now.
Hope you enjoyed this episode from the Grow and Scale Now Summit. Again, you can get your free ticket now at growandscalenow.com.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Real Life Leadership. If you'd like to get the show notes or access more resources, log on to reallifeleaders.com/podcast to get the show notes from this episode and any other resources we might have mentioned. And also, we'd love to hear from you. Be sure to review or rate this podcast on Apple Podcasts to help spread the word. And if you have any leadership questions you want answered, email podcast@reallifeleaders.com.